Welcome to another episode of Tech Lounge, a podcast where we discuss the ever-changing world of technology. And now your host, Dan Duran.
And we're live. Dan Duran, everybody, Tech Lounge. I hope you enjoyed that intro. Amazing. I love our new look. We're on the stream, streaming right now from Restream and live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube as every Friday, 12 o'clock. Very interactive show. Kudos to my marketing team, Diego, Ora, Kevin, for putting such an amazing show. All the content that we have this week is going to be amazing. So I invite you to spend time with us. Spend this 40 minutes. I think it's going to be very important, very powerful talk with Moriah Vegas today, habits coach and speaker from Habitually Powerful. Hello, Moriah. How are you doing?
Hello, Dan and Andrew. I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, we're so glad to have you. And of course, I have my co-host extraordinaire, Andrew Summerton from Be Wired Technologies and Rhino Cybersecurity. Hello, Andrew.
Hey, everybody. Nice to see you, Moriah. I think you were locking me out there, Dan, at the beginning. I wasn't sure if I was coming in or not. There was a delay on my computer. I'm happy to be here, guys. Yeah, it's all good.
Perfect. Okay, so keep the comments coming in. I'm looking into the captions that we have, the chat, all of this stuff. So, and I can actually project them onto the screen. I love technology, and this is a technology show, so it's you're right on cue. So, Moriah, I've known you for quite a bit, 6 years now. You used to be the owner of an event company, right? Mm-hmm. And I remember I participated in one of your events, and I fell in love with your content. Great show. And since then, I've been following you on social media, and now you're a habits coach. So, Moriah, if you can introduce yourself, who are you and what do you do? What are your hobbies? What do you like as a person?
Sure. So it's Moriah Vegas. I'm based in Toronto, born and raised, very proud of that. Hobbies, I'm really into music, electronic music in particular. I'm a house head. Really? So that's what I'm listening to most of the time, progressive house in particular. Love being outside in a park, hanging out with friends, love good food, all of those yummy, delicious, wonderful things.
Nice.
Great. In Habitually Powerful habits coach, it's not a life coach, but something similar. Can you explain what it is? What does your company do?
Sure. I think, if you were going to put it under a general umbrella, yes, it kind of falls under life coaching, but it's very specific. What I do is coach people through habit, tools, and strategies within the framework of a program I've built. So it can be done in 8 weeks or 16 weeks, depending on your schedule and how quickly you'd like to go through it. And in that, I incorporate a lot of my personal examples with breaking bad habits and building new habits. And in addition to that, I'm doing lots of speaking. I have a signature workshop, and I also support my clients with project management and administrative functions too.
Cool. Moriah, actually, that's really cool because with the changing landscape with COVID, with new companies working from home, habit breaking and habit changing is pretty important. And unfortunately, we really fall into habits, especially as in the last year and a half, we've been sitting around doing nothing. How did you get involved? How did you get involved in this? Like, how did it all come to fruition?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So I have been working in this business since January of this year, but my journey actually began, quite some time ago. And I'm going to tell you kind of really quickly where that started. So I was born into what many would refer to a high control religious organization or a cult. So yeah, it was a pretty trying circumstance, but I did manage to escape, at the age of 20. But, I think the key point here is that I was shunned by my friends and family. That's a restriction of the organization. When you do leave, you're cut off from communication and association. And this left me in a place where I just didn't know how to deal with the emotions and ended up getting into a series of bad habits that were just really ways to help me kind of cope with those difficult emotions I was dealing with at the time. Yeah. So, I mean, to further that point, I ended up working in the club scene as a promoter part-time for many, many years in addition to my full-time job. And, that kind of environment keeps you smoking, doing drugs, and binge drinking because it's just normal in that sort of environment, right? So, unfortunately, I had developed a daily cocaine habit that lasted about 10 years. And my health was totally crappy. I had, chronic headaches, back pains, digestive issues. And, this went on for some time before I realized that like things really needed to change for me.
Oh, absolutely.
Is there a point where you actually felt, I mean, I've heard through, habit breaking or addiction even, where you hit a rock bottom where you identified that and you're like, okay, I need to make a life altering decision to change these habits to better myself. Is that kind of what happened to you? Or?
Yeah, I would say there was several rock bottoms, but I mean, all in all, it was, being in integrity is really important to me. And I felt that when these habits got in the way to a point that I was canceling appointments or not showing up fully for, people that I was meeting with and those sorts of things, that's when it was like, I'm out of integrity and I'm not behaving professionally to my standard. And that's when I decided, I really need to like make some serious life changes.
Very interesting.
Yeah, that's an amazing story, Moriah. We have some people on the show. Kevin Nathaniel, he's one of our top fans. Thank you for coming on board today as well. And we have Diego Macastrillon. He's actually our marketing manager. Hello, Diego. We have Gladstone as well. Kudos to the marketing team and the people that back us up. So, Moriah, how do you change? How do you turn things around? Because when you are dealing with dependency, it's very hard to get rid of bad habits when your body and your mind is telling you to do something else and there is dependency involved.
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. And I mean, I'm going to preface it by saying, I've been able to quit very challenging habits like cocaine, like nicotine, and develop things like resilience and self-trust through the habits work. And this isn't just surface level work. What's really important for lasting change is the mindset shift. So while you can implement tools like removing yourself from a situation where that thing might be more readily available, which is really what I had to do at the beginning with cocaine, for lasting change, that took, the mindset work. And now, I'm at a place where my relationship with food and with cannabis and with exercise and meditation, for example, is completely reinvented. And for someone who used to hate exercising, today is, I think, day 217 of uninterrupted yoga, like every single day. And I've also just gone alcohol free too, 25 days. That's a new one for me.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah. So these tools can really help you reinvent and give you more energy and vitality and just a lot more ease and flow in your life. But again, it starts with the mindset shift, right?
Is there a way, or is there, if you're thinking about changing your habit, it doesn't have to be an extreme habit that you've gone through, like, oh my God, the journey you've had is remarkable. And some of the things you've had to overcome are outstanding, and congratulations for being able to do that and having the strength. But most importantly, share that with, our audience and people in general. Is there do you plan to have an end goal when you're setting a change? Is it like a day-to-day thing? How does that work? Like when you're thinking about, I want to make a change, whatever that looks like, what does that journey look like? Like, what's your starting point?
Yeah, the starting point is always taking a look at your personal values. Now, as entrepreneurs, when you're starting a new business, one of the things you look at is establishing, core values. What do we stand for? And that drives everything, your spending, your marketing, your hiring choices. Well, we have to do that for ourselves as individuals too. What are my values? Because those are going to be like a North Star that drives you. So getting clear on your values, I have an exercise that I kind of take people through with that, drives which habits you're going to break and build, or drives which long-term goals you choose, which then you build the habits in to support those long-term goals. So I would say start by looking at what your personal values are. And this is really important because going back to that cult background where you're dictated to how to live your life, the choices aren't your own. For me, it's very important that we take ownership over this. And we're not putting too much weight into what other people say is the right habit for us. So, you should be doing P90X or whatever it is. It's like, well, maybe that's not right for me, right? So these are personal choices. So getting clear on what you personally want.
Well, I think that's, I think that's so critical. Sorry, Dan, I just want to finish this one thought. In regards to that, outside influences are huge because you know, whether it's you're trying to lose weight and the people around you aren't, so they're eating in front of you, or you're trying to make a habit change. So
Right.
I mean, that's it's important to know that. It's so true. Wow.
Yeah. So we got people on the show that are saying hi. So Felix, Andrea, Eduardo Escalante saying hi. Hello, guys. Aura. Hello. How are you doing? And we have a question from Diego. He asked, "My phone distracts me a lot at work, and it's taking me away from the difficult." Is difficult. Taking me away is difficult because I also work with it. Any recommendations? So so you're in the creative business, Moriah, and you deal with a lot of creatives and people that are in technology like ourselves, and Diego is a marketing manager, so he's always on his phone commenting and posting on social media, but sometimes he spends a lot of time on Facebook, and I actually commented on one of his posts about that because it's 100% true. How do you keep that balance?
It is really hard, and I'm in the same boat because obviously I wear all the hats, right? So I'm expected to be there for clients and also doing the marketing, but I need that time for deep work, and you really can't get into deep work with notifications going off. So I mean, I have digital detox tips that I like to share with people, and I think
digital detox, I love it.
Yeah, I thought that would be really helpful for today's conversation, and I'm glad Diego asked that question because it's something I struggle with too, right? So one of the first things you have to do is eliminate any non-essential smartphone push notifications. Like, these things are not, like, there's nothing emergency coming through on social, right? If it's an emergency, someone's going to pick up the phone and call you or email you, maybe. So that would be the first thing, Diego. Like, get rid of the push notifications, because those are just completely taking you off track from what you're doing. And I'm going to say one more tip, and that's scheduling set times to check your email, engage on social, and reply to messages. So, like, you know, maybe in your role, you might need to have that be a little more often, but it definitely shouldn't be just whenever the notification goes off. So think about maybe 3 to 5 times a day and actually scheduling that in your calendar and sticking to that. And that'll allow you the time in between to do like deep focused work. What do you think about that?
Well, that's kind of like the golden rule, right? To keep that balance, is turn off all your notifications, just turn off your phone for a little bit, and then continue on with your work when you need to, right? So especially in social media, I mean, in our show, we have to be constantly posting every 4 hours, 6 hours, and sometimes it's like 10 p.m. and then I push a post out. And if you continue to just be on Facebook and stuff like that, you're just going to be wasting time, and those are pretty bad habits, right?
It's very easy for that to happen. I know from experience. So I've had to put these things into place for myself.
Okay. So the thing is, like, you know, social media, it's, and we're going to get into that topic, but they make it in a way that is like a casino, right?
Yeah,
so
totally.
The dopamine, every constantly, there's a new post, a new notification, you need to, go down and swipe down. That's a casino type of environment right on your phone. So why is it that habits are so hard to get rid of, like those type of habits, and the good habits to stick? How do you make the change?
Okay, there's a lot of pieces to that question, but I think, you know, with the bad habits and how they're so easy, like the way they seem to just catch on so easily, it's because we are typically looking for a solution to a problem. So you might reach for your phone if you're stuck on something difficult in the piece of work you're working on, or if you're bored, right? So like those are kind of like emotional sort of situations where you're just like looking for something to kind of and that's when that tends to happen. Like you're stuck or you're bored. And so what happens is every single time then you're stuck or you're bored, that becomes your default go-to. But know that just because it was the first solution you came across that worked and solved that problem in the moment doesn't mean it's the best solution. And there are other solutions. Like if you're stuck, maybe you could just get up and take a walk around the block. It doesn't mean you have to reach for your phone. So think about the habits as solutions to problems, right? And with good habits, you're looking at solutions to problems, the problem being a goal you have, right? And the habit being the steps you take to get there. So the small incremental improvements and the changes day over day that you make to get to that long-term goal. But yeah, these social media especially is designed for that. I mean, one other tip that I can give you is on what is usually downtime, like if your weekend is a traditional Saturday and Sunday,
Yes.
LinkedIn is sending me notifications on a Saturday. Why? No, I have no reason to be on LinkedIn on a Saturday.
Right.
Personally, that's my choice, right? So experiment with taking 2, 4, 6, 8 hours off your phone, off social media,
Yes.
off news and that. So I would even suggest like just turn your phone off for 2 hours and like see how that feels. And then as time goes on, you can gradually increase those increments and have greater time away, which really allows you to kind of like reset and get back to yourself and not dealing with so much FOMO, what's going on and what am I missing and all that, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. For all of you that are joining us right now, we're speaking with Moriah Vegas. She's a habits coach and a speaker. We're talking about habitually powerful and how we can change habits, get rid of the old bad habits, and adopt new habits. So welcome on board. And if you have any questions, please make sure that you put them on the chat, and we'll be happy to answer them. We have Moriah Vegas on our live stream. So Moriah, we're talking about technology, and that's very important in our show. We're a technology show, right? And everything that we do is technology, BYR Technologies, as well as Rhino Cybersecurity. And we're talking about the bad things about technology, such as social media. But there's also the good side, right? So how can technologies make us better?
Yeah, this is like some of my favorite stuff. So
Favorite?
Yeah,
Mine
this is
too.
my favorite stuff. So I mean, especially myself, like I am a self-identified minimalist. So really what I'm looking for is ways to create efficiencies and, make the most of my time. I'm all about like doing more with less energy. Okay. So we can use technology to automate and simplify our lives and actually to help us create consistency. So first things first, get on an online calendar. If you're still using a paper calendar, please move on to an online calendar, because that's where you get the advantage of scheduling recurring tasks, right? So the things that are important for you to get done daily, they can just be easily set up. Another thing to look at, a great example of how I've been able to automate in my life is with like grocery shopping and meal prep and that sort of thing. So what you can do here is look at ways of reusing your grocery list, right? Like using an app so that it's just kind of there every time, taking the old shopping cart and putting that in your new shopping cart. So you're just getting the same things every time and not browsing, right? Subscribe and save with Amazon is a really great feature to take advantage of. Not only is there huge savings there, but you're automating these things that you're going to need every month anyways, and they just show up. Like you don't need to think about it. So
absolutely. And that's crazy because my wife, she subscribes to Amazon as well as Walmart and Costco, right? And sometimes she orders through Walmart, which is just a couple of blocks from my house. And we see cars just dropping by a whole bunch of bags, and there you go, here's your groceries. And sometimes when items are not there, they replace them for better items. So we're like, yes, we got this. And it makes everything so convenient nowadays. And also this is because of what happened with COVID and the pandemic and all of that. We needed to adapt. Not just the companies, but ourselves. We're adapting. So automation of tasks, as you're saying, is super important. You were also talking about decision-making, the decision-making process. Can you give us a little debrief on that part?
Sure. So look at every day as like a series of choices, right? You're either making choices that are getting you towards the place you want to be. So they're kind of like votes towards the person that you're trying to become, or they're the wrong choices that are more aligned with the old you, right? So what we want to do with things like automation and scheduling is create a scenario where you don't have to make decisions in the moment. So if I want to have a healthy breakfast every morning, which I do, what I've put into place is batch prepping breakfast burritos. I don't have to think about what I'm having in the morning. I legit just reach into the freezer every morning and heat it up and go, right? Also, so that's probably like a good example. And I also wanted to say that, things like this that save you money and save you time can also help you stick to your goals. If I go back to the grocery example, a lot of people are trying to lose weight. You know, a lot of people started emotionally eating over the pandemic, right? Like either
Yes.
boredom or stress or whatever the case is. But when you use things like automation, you're removing the decision making from your shopping. So you're removing like the opportunities for temptation. Again, like if you could have someone else do that shopping, so using technology, using the apps to have the things delivered to you, you're not in the store facing the temptation, walking down those aisles you shouldn't be walking down, right? So I don't know.
Amazing.
You know, in regards to business too, because we talk personal, but in regards to business and with the pandemic and things have changed, again, back to that, it's people are working from home, and formulating a habit for a company is equally as important, right? And it's those small things. I know for us, you know, we have a morning meeting. It doesn't matter where our team is, at 8:30, and it's habit forming, and it unites us. And then we have those small things that we do each and every day to keep things. Again, we created a new habit for working from home, and it was just implementing small things that just became a habit, which I think is equally as important for a business as it is for an individual, right? With the way things have changed.
Yeah, and the important thing with habits is consistency, right? So I mean, a lot of people like to ask about like, well, how long does it take to stick? And I don't know at what point your morning meeting became automatic, right? It's different for each habit. It's different for each context, for each scenario. But the key thing to keep in mind is consistency. We're not looking for perfection or mastery. Like we'll get there eventually, right? But right now we're just worried about showing up every day for the habit.
Exactly.
It's in the showing up every day that we start to build the
I think
automation.
Exactly. So everybody who's joining us right now, Moriah Vegas, habit coach and speaker, habitually powerful. Moriah, habits are super important, really good to when you create habits, as Andrew's alluding to, and yourself, you're alluding to as well. But there are some really bad habits, such as procrastination. And some of the statistics that I've read, one of them says 84% of us are affected to some degree by procrastination, or 1 in 5 of us procrastinate every single day. Tell us about procrastination in the relationship with habits and procrastination.
Sure. I would say 1 in 5 sounds low. I mean, like,
is it? Maybe that's that. I'm just Googling, right? And I'm trying to find information when I do the research.
Okay, well, let me ask you, Dan, how many times a day do you procrastinate? And put you on the spot. Maybe 1, maybe 2 at least.
No.
I do.
We all
I don't have enough fingers to count with.
I think we all do it.
Especially when I don't want to do it. Me personally, when I don't want to do something, I push it off and push it off. Hopefully it's going to go away, and it never does, but you always hope that it's going to go away.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to say something that will hopefully make everyone feel maybe a little bit better. You might have labeled yourself as lazy, or other people might have labeled you as lazy if you tend to procrastinate a lot. But rest assured, you are not lazy. You are just dealing with a common human condition, which is fear. Okay, so procrastination is simply just a form of fear. I talk about fear and procrastination, but really, like, they're kind of one and the same. And so if we look at it through that context, the first thing you can kind of do when you're starting to procrastinate on something right away is say, what am I afraid of? Right? It's not like, oh my God, I'm feeling so lazy today or whatever. It's just like, no, what in this situation is creating fear? Is it fear of failure? Is it fear of letting go of the unfamiliar and venturing into the unknown? Is this task difficult? Do I not know where to start? Am I afraid of like what's involved? Maybe I'm not prepared. Maybe I'll look stupid. Maybe I don't know where to start. On the flip side, it could be a fear of success, right? Which sounds a little strange, but if I do this, I'm going to be given more responsibility and I don't want that. Or if I do this, I'm going to be put into this growth position that maybe I'm not ready for. So there's a lot of fear-based things that can get in the way from us either starting a new habit or really getting down to breaking a habit or even making decisions. Procrastination, fear-based procrastination can often impact our ability just to make decisions in life, important decisions too.
Yeah, I think that's so important because I think you have to be honest with yourself, right? I think that's the big thing is because, you said it's kind of funny to think that, okay, I'm procrastinating because of fear, but I'm also procrastinating out of success and that's a real question you have to ask yourself. Like, be honest with yourself, evaluate that situation, and how do I go from that fear to not being procrastinating to actually implementing it and then moving forward and hopefully becoming a habit. I mean, I know sales If you walk into it, you're scared to walk into to somebody's office because either they're going to, welcome you with open arms, or they're going to shut the door in your face, but you don't know. And it's fear. So you put it off and put it off and put it off. Right.
Yeah. So after you do identify it, like at that point, it's just kind of a matter of saying, yeah, okay, this is what I'm experiencing, but I'm going to move forward anyway. And I'll just say there's one question you can ask yourself. In that moment, you can say, what is stronger, my fear or the need to get XYZ done? So in this case, it's what is stronger, my fear or the need to lose weight because of my health? Or whatever it is, like what's stronger, and that'll help you kind of reframe it and take some small steps towards moving forward.
I see. Wow. Everybody, Dan Durant with Tech Lounge. We have Moriah Vegas, habits coach and speaker, habitually powerful, talking to us about habit formation, good habits, bad habits. I have a question for you, Moriah, from one of our listeners here. And she's basically asking about distractions and procrastination. What is the relationship between distraction and procrastination?
That's such an interesting question. I feel that we find distractions when we are procrastinating. Does that make sense? Like, that's how it's landing with me. I think it's like that's when you're going to be like, I don't feel like doing this. Let me reach for my phone because that's what I'm going to be doing right now. So I think distractions are created from the procrastination. Like, they're always there, but you notice we don't worry about them if it's something we're having fun doing or enjoying doing. Like, who cares about that? But like the minute we start having that fear around whatever and procrastinating, it's like then the distractions run rampant, right? So that's probably the relationship.
And the thing is, like, we have 5 senses and we're not in this enclosed dark box, right? So there's something that we hate doing, right? And it's very routinary and I got to do it every day and it sucks, right? So then my 5 senses, my 5 senses kick in and I have to look somewhere else. I have to touch something else. I have to hear something else, etc. Right? So it's that how it is. So you can't focus, but then the distraction kicks in, which makes you procrastinate, and this is kind of like a vicious cycle.
The distractions could be the bad habits that you kind of pick up. So it could be picking up your phone. It could be, oh, let me just text my friend real quick, or let me do dishes or start laundry or whatever it is we want to do, except for the thing we're
It's prioritization kind of a product to that too, because outside resource, like, so for example, if you're going to procrastinate, but you have priorities, but all of a sudden you lift the priority of that fun thing and that makes the thing that makes you feel good, and you put it above that procrastination. So it does like organization or prioritization have anything to do with good habit changing? Like, is there a way of doing that so you can prioritize those key things?
Yeah, I mean, I would always suggest dealing with the thing that you're putting off first.
Right.
If possible. I mean, and there's tons of different advice, and play around with what works for you. Sometimes people suggest starting your day with like a low-hanging fruit that gives you a sense of accomplishment when you knock it off. But here, this is probably going to make it a lot simpler. Usually these things appear to be like big, hairy, scary things we got to get done. So what I always say is, what is the smallest version of this thing that I can do right now? Or can I break this thing into pieces where I can tackle a piece each day over the next 3 days? So just acknowledging that it's something you're going to procrastinate on from the very moment it starts will give you the advantage of being able to have the time to break those smaller pieces out over time. So I'll give the example of my client who is having to write an article. The first draft written in the 11th hour was like 1,600 words and way too long. She had the opportunity to revisit the article. I said, break it down into small pieces, schedule half an hour each day over this week. And lo and behold, she sat down and just committed to that small piece of work every day, and then ended up within the word count she was supposed to have, but had the advantage of sleeping on it every night too. I mean, the last thing we want to do is have to deal with that on the very last day. So look at the smallest possible version. So it might even be, let me just write down what might be involved, and just sitting and writing down for 10 minutes what you might have to do. You might look at it and go, oh, this isn't as crazy as I originally thought. And now I can just schedule these things over the next few days, deal with it a bit at a time. Cool. Yeah. So you look at the smallest possible way to get started and just do that. So I call it the 2-minute version.
Yes.
Okay.
Right?
So yeah, so you're kind of what you're talking about is I wouldn't say tricking, but you're trying to get your mind into this mindset, right? So how about something like the 5-minute rule, right? So you have to do this really big report, it's 70 pages, but you got to start somewhere, and you trick your mind into saying, you know what, I'm just going to spend 5 minutes on it. I'm just going to jump on my computer and just work for 5 minutes, and then next thing you know, you're working for 2 hours on the report, and you finish it. So is that a good habit to have, or is that kind of tricking your mind, and it's not conducive to anything?
It's not a trick at all. I mean, I would always say, look at it as, hey, I have this thing to do. I'm going to create a framework for it. If I don't do anything else today, I'm just going to sit down and create a framework. So that might look like, now from a project management perspective, what's all involved, who might I need to engage, what resources do I need, and when am I going to do this work? So I would say start with the scheduling. Right? Like figure out the different components of work that you need to do. Start with the scheduling. And yes, the 5-minute rule is a really great trick, because we can all kind of agree to 5 minutes. Look, I'll just do 5 minutes. More often than not, we end up working for longer, right? But yeah, I think it's a great trick to employ.
Great. Okay. So 5-minute rule. Moriah, I have a question from Miguel Delgado, and I think it's a very interesting question. What types of habits can be implemented to avoid procrastination when experiencing mental health problems, such as depression or anxiety?
Yeah, so really, really great question. Again, just my standard disclaimer, I'm not a medical or health and wellness professional, so I'm not here to dispense evidence or advice on that or therapy, but I think there's something that we can all benefit from, which people who are dealing with anxiety and depression can benefit from as well. And those are habits based around building resiliency. So resiliency being our ability to bounce back from external triggers, a really low state of mind, being emotionally dysregulated, whatever, right? So how quickly can we get our shit together, right? For lack of a better word, and bounce back from that. So some types of habits that you can put into place to build resilience are kind of like, I call them your fill your cup activities. So the first one you might want to start looking at is meditation. So, starting again with a minute or 2 minutes and phasing up and, working up. And people, might say, oh, meditation's not for me. I've tried it. But there was a Healthline article published recently with 7 or 8 different ways you can meditate. So a solo silent walk in nature counts as meditation, right? Yoga is a form, it's a moving meditation. So figuring out which works for you, there's guided meditations, experiment with this, and then you'll find something that works with you. Breath work is one that goes hand in hand with meditation too. So this is a really, really easy one to start practicing, and it's so great because if you practice it daily, it really contributes to your resilience, but it's a tool you can break out in the moment. So if you feel yourself starting to get triggered, or you feel upset, maybe you're feeling rage or sadness or whatever it is, you can kind of start regulating yourself by breaking out that breath work. So doing that deep breathing. So again, there's tons of resources online about that, but if anyone's interested in more tips on that, reach out to me directly and I'll be happy to send you some that I've compiled. And my absolute favorite is yoga. And I'll tell you why. I think this is a holistic practice that hits so many bases. And if people are ever going to add one thing to the routine, I always suggest yoga, because you can relax and reflect and exercise all at once. It incorporates the breath work. As I'm in, Shavasana at the end, corpse pose, that's when I am so zen. And that's where I've actually layered in my meditation. So I didn't used to meditate, but I layered it on top of an existing keystone habit, the yoga. And now I just roll right into meditation afterwards. So those 3 are pretty great. And I will also say some things to look at are hydration. So everyone has different water needs. Again, get enough water, because that impacts, impacts your mental health. It impacts your ability to regulate your emotions, getting enough sleep. So this one is hard for a lot of people because, like lack of consistency. But I would say start with one end. So start with working back to a standard, consistent wake up time. Then look at the back end, getting to sleep at a standard time, right? And if you stick with that, it's far easier to fall asleep and wake up at the same times every day, and make sure you're getting enough sleep. And then nutrition, really like avoiding processed foods, high sugar, high sodium, you know, really for the most part, whatever's in the aisles of the grocery store, right?
One of the things I actually did a while back. I mean, I drink a lot of water. It's my favorite drink. I consume a lot. But a few years back, someone was brought to my attention, speaking about technology or a technology show, are these water bottles actually that light up so if you haven't had any for like say 15-20 minutes, it'll actually light up, and it
wow.
I'm writing that down.
I didn't know that one. That's crazy.
Absolutely. So they're actually awareness water bottles. So you fill it up, they're on your app. You basically, and if you don't drink it, you don't lift it up, it tells you to hydrate.
Yes.
It's very amazing.
Love that. You mentioned mindfulness, and that I'm so glad you said that, because I think, you know, a lot of people might be here going, oh my gosh, like crap, I have all these bad habits now, and I have all these things I'm going to start, and like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling overwhelmed, and maybe like, am I up for this? And I will say, if you want to start anywhere now, start with mindfulness. So, you know, like just calling attention to what you're doing in the moment, creating awareness around it. So if you feel that one of your bad habits is on autopilot, like maybe you bite your nails.
Yeah.
The next time you catch yourself biting your nails, oh, I'm biting my nails right now. Like verbalize it out loud.
Yeah.
So even just bringing some mindfulness and awareness to the habits can often be enough to get you to kind of look at them and start changing what you're doing in that moment. So
amazing.
One of the big things too, Moriah, too, is patience. Nowadays everybody wants to be rich overnight, get in shape overnight, form a habit overnight. And patience, I think, is critical. It's not an end goal. I think it's the journey of the process that's going to get you there. You have to be patient.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you said that, because patient, like none of these things happen overnight. And oftentimes people give up on their habits because they feel like they're not seeing results. But it's often just past that point where you're going to start to see the results. And remembering that with these habits, it's not meant to be like, oh, I'm going to look like a fitness model like overnight.
Absolutely.
But long term, you're going to see some results long term. But I'm going to say, like, stick to it. Even if you feel like I'm not making movement, I'm not seeing results, just stick with it, because it's usually just past that point where you give up that you actually start to see the results.
Absolutely.
This conversation is extremely good. So much information. You know, if you're writing down notes, you have to go very quickly. It's really good, really good. Love the conversation. Moriah Vegas, habits coach and speaker, habitually powerful. I have her website actually on the screen, which is habituallypowerful.ca, and her email address as well, Moriah@habituallypowerful.ca. I'm also displaying her LinkedIn profile, so if you want to look for her on LinkedIn, as well as her Twitter handle. So if you want to use Twitter. Moriah, I have a question about technology, and we were talking, and I was trying to analyze and kind of interpolate this into technology. And you talked about meditation, you talked about sleep, nutrition. What do you think about using? There's just so many apps out there that, like, for example, Calm. There's another one called Sleep, you know, task managers. What's your take on using different apps on your mobile phone, as opposed to just the old way of trying to produce these habits?
Sure. I would say use the app if it works for you. I would caution against tracking in too many places, because then you're updating. So even think about, like, if you were working on a project, like, you might not want to use a checklist and a project management tool and your task list in Outlook. Like, you're going to want to simplify, or else it's too many places to be, and then you won't stick with one thing. So meditation apps are great for that.
Yes.
You know, someone is asking, I think, about a type of app to track habits. So things like, I love Todoist. I think Todoist is a really great habit forming app, because it's gamified. Right? So that works for me, right? Cool. So you get karma points for actually completing all your tasks, and then you like reach certain levels, like Grandmaster karma or whatever it is. So there's things like that. So I would say experiment, but be cognizant that like trying to do too many things in too many places, you might just not end up sticking with it at all. And sometimes something old-fashioned like a habit tracker on the wall might be the easiest solution. So
yes.
I'm thinking back to like, and I often recommend this, like standard Microsoft Word month at a time view template, which you can literally just print out. And there you might do an X and hang it on the wall for every day that you hit your water intake or every day that you practice your meditation.
Absolutely.
And so once you start to see those streaks visually, that's great motivation. So yeah, okay, I know you want me to be all high tech here, right?
Yes.
But I'm going to say that sometimes low tech works.
There's got to be a balance. There's got to be a balance, right?
So usually like, is it front and center? And that's why I suggest having something on the wall, because you can't miss it. Whereas an app, you might have to open up on your phone.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So
if you're talking in apps, and actually I have a question from Tamara Almeida Johnson here. She asks if you have any apps that you use for organization or habit forming on your phone.
Oh yeah. Okay. So for organization, I'm a huge fan of Evernote.
Evernote. Oh yes.
Evernote is huge. So I've essentially eliminated to-do lists and all of those random piles by having a place for everything to live within Evernote. So oftentimes we get taken off task with a really cool idea that pops into our head. Well, we can have a dumping ground in Evernote for that cool idea so we don't lose it. We just type it in there, even like opening up Notepad on your desktop and like typing it in there really quick and then getting back to your task. So like that's one I love. And then Todoist again, I found that to be helpful, like to the point that I don't even use it anymore because I used it to the point that the habits became automatic.
Wow. Yes.
I rely heavily on my Google Calendar. Like I tend to not even put anything on a list because I always say it does not exist in space, time, and reality until it's on the calendar. So even if it's a small to-do, why not just create a task for or create a spot for it on my calendar right now, whether that's today or tomorrow, a 15-minute block of whatever it is I need to do. Because then I know it's visual. I'm going to get there and see it. And I don't have to rely on pieces of paper and am I capturing everything? Did I miss anything? It's on my calendar.
Yeah, and the other thing about Evernote, and I've used Evernote in the past, and I don't use it anymore. I actually just use notepads now. But Evernote, you can have it on your phone. You can have it on your browser. You can have it on your desktop. Like I have it in my computer at home, and then I come here. You can share activities with other people. So all the tasks that you're creating, you can put pictures, you can put create doodles, you can put the image, video content, all of that stuff if you want to have it everywhere. So that's the nice thing about the Evernote and that technology, right? Because
they just rolled out task lists too in Evernote. So that's a new feature.
Yeah, and yes, exactly. So in the that's a really good benefit because I know, for example, my wife, she puts a list of activities on the fridge, right? And it's posted in there, and she's very well organized, by the way. And she's a little bit.
Shout out to your wife there, Dan. I like
that. That was nice.
That was good. You're in good graces when you get home. I love
it. So basically, I love her for that. She's very organized. I'm not. I'm just a mess. And but sometimes when she puts that stuff on the fridge, and then we're out, doing groceries and stuff, or trying to remember a date. Oh, it's on the fridge. Yeah. Right. So it, like I forgot my shopping list because it's on the fridge. And but if you have Evernote, it's a really good way to actually retrieve it from anywhere you are, basically.
Yes, and same with Todoist, same functionality on your desktop or your phone, and you can share projects in Todoist with your partner or your coworker or whoever. So in the past, I've had a shared grocery list. So either one of you can just randomly add to that list. It's real time, it's not on paper, and you can check those things off as you go through the store. Really cool.
Moriah, real quick question, and I appreciate all these tips are incredible. And you know what? Everybody has their own journey and everybody has their own experiences. And as you said, it's customized to their needs and the outside influences, etc. You kind of have to eliminate and find out what what you're looking to do. What's the steps, or what are the next steps? If somebody after this call wanted to reach out to you, like what does that look like? So they reach out to you, they get a hold of you. What happens?
Sure. So I offer what's called a clarity call. It's complimentary, 30 minutes.
Clarity call.
Yeah, to get clear on what you want for yourself in your life. So if you're
Nice.
like, I know I have some bad habits, like some people aren't really sure what they want to work on, but they know they want to make some changes. It's a
Yes.
series of questions I take you through so you can kind of uncover that and discover it for yourself. So I'm definitely open to having that chat with people if they simply would like some of the resources I've discussed today too. I'm happy to fire those off as well.
Nice.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And we're running out of time, but everybody, Moriah Vegas, habits coach and speaker, habitually powerful. I'm displaying the website as well as her email address, so you can contact her directly. I'm also going to display the LinkedIn and Twitter profiles in there. If you want to, if you're social and you want to go to LinkedIn and look for her. So it is so, I'm so happy that we have you in the show, Moriah. Thank you for coming on board, and everybody. Next week we're off, right? So we're not going to have a show next week, but we will have one on August the 13th, Friday the 13th. By the way, whoa, that might be a spooky talk.
It's gonna be a spooky one.
So Moriah, it's been a pleasure, absolute pleasure having you on the show, and thank you for coming.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't believe the time went so quickly. Hopefully you'll have me back. We can chat some more. Thank you so much for all the great questions from the audience too. That was really nice.
Thank you very much, Moriah. It was wonderful.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
See you in 2 weeks. Bye.